This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, welcome to a nervy, twitchy start to the day if you are two impalas trying to come down for a drink at the Pan at Gari Dam. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our very live, very interactive safari, 100% live, as Brent Leo Smith would often say. And we hope that you've all had a wonderful day and enjoying the sights on the dam cam for those of you that have been watching. And the reason why we're sitting with two nervy impala is because of Hosanna, which we'll get into just now. My name is Tristan, and on camera I have got David, and as we were discussing, it is 100% live, which means that you 100% have to ask us questions and comments, and so that we can try and answer as many as possible and have a good chat about all things that are nature related here in South Africa. But as you can see, you've got a situation where there's a male and female impala, and we've parked very far away. We're not close at all. I can't even see Hosanna. We can't find him on the thermal even when we first arrived. And the reason why I've parked so far away is just because I don't want to have a situation where I either chase those impalas away or in some way sort of chase them towards Hosanna. We're just trying to give them enough space that they can decide what they want to do and not interfere in any way whatsoever. And I was just saying to David, it's quite amazing that there's this drive that they need to drink water. You know, now in winter it's so hard for them to find water. They've got to walk quite far. You know, there's not that many places where water is available, and this drive to drink just keeps bringing this female back all the time. As she tries to kind of run away, then she decides no, and she turns and look, she comes back again, and the male just kind of follows behind. And so she really wants to drink, but these guys, I'm pretty sure, have been burnt by Hosanna already, in terms of they probably have been chased. They keep coming down to this pan. They will be smelling a leopard. We know Hosanna has been insanely clever in using the structure of this dam to be able to hunt impalas and duikers and all kinds of other things. He's been successful once and has missed a few times, but he's worked out that this is a sort of perfect place in order to set up an ambush, and so he's just sitting waiting for animals to come and drink. Now, is that a green-backed heron sitting on top of the log? It is a green-backed heron. So there's a blacksmith lapwing, which is the one on the lowest side, the lower left, which is the black and white and grey bird, and then on the top right there is a little green-backed heron that is sitting and posing ever so beautifully on that log. Now, I've not seen a green-backed heron at this particular pan. I'm sure some of the zoomies or people that watch the dam cam probably would have seen a green-backed heron quite regularly, but it's my first time to actually see one still sitting at the pan and kind of looking for things, and that gives it an indication of just how little water there is. If birds like the green-backed heron, which are fish and frog eaters, are coming to small pans like this in order to find food. So it's not just a leopard that's taking advantage of this little water source. You're finding that a bird is also coming in to try and do so. And I really feel sorry for the animals that have to come and try and drink here while Hosanna is around, because it really can't be easy. You know, this thirst is probably massive and they just can't get there because they know there's something watching. Good. Now, I'm not the only one out and about this morning. There is also Mr. James R.A. Henry, and, well, he's ready and rearing to go in this very bitterly cold morning.
That sounds sweet. That is too cold, sick, I said. I said on. Good morning. I had about him, and her, and her friends, leopard, yeah, try to find it. So, hey, you, hook, us, hashtag for alive, substitute. Good, you, hook us. We find leopard here, this down here. That's my way of saying it's very cold out here, and a warm welcome to you. I hope you got what I was trying to say there. We've come along to the western side of Juma, and we've just found some tracks of a large male leopard, which would indicate the presence of Hukumuri. somewhere around here. We're going to see if we can find him. It would be very nice to see him again today. What a wonderful start with Hosanna, magnificent male leopard, our favorite friend. And I was watching a little clip that we were making for our upcoming TV show yesterday evening, and I got, well, relatively teary, really, because we, it's a sort of highlights package of him from when he was very little up until his magnificent self now. And, well, it's been quite a journey with him, and just so very special to have him back, and I hope he hangs around for a nice long time. He's such a special cat because he does seem to so enjoy our company. Right, we're going to carry on following tracks of Hukumuri down here. He's probably sitting in a tree with an impala. I've driven past him. Sydney would like to greet you also with a footprint.
A very, very good afternoon. My name is Sydney, and I am not traveling alone this morning. I am with Craig, and we are going to be with you on this guided walk. Hoping to find quite a whole lot of interesting things this morning. I'm very happy with this kind of weather. Looking at the clouds, I can see it's not overcast, and there is no wind at all. When there's no wind, is the best time for me to do my trekking. So for your questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, hashtag SafariLive, and also on YouTube chat stream. I already got some of the interesting tracks on the ground, very nice and fresh. I just want to show you now. Let's go. So on my way to this side, I came across very beautiful tracks. I've got this one here, and I've also got this one. These are two completely different tracks. If you check, these ones are much more nice and round, and these ones here, they are not round, they are oval a little bit. And you can see here there is sign of claws, and if you check here, there is no sign of claws. So we have got a leopard track, which is this one. You can see the 3 lobes there, and here you can see just the 2 lobes. So this leopard has been here last night, followed by a spotted hyena. This is a spotted hyena. So the spotted hyena was walking behind the leopard. I'm not too sure if they were all walking at the same time, or the leopard went past here first, followed by the hyena. So it's quite a very good sign that there has been some cats activities in the area. But I strongly believe that this trek is from Hosanna, because it's not very far away from where we are. Maybe he woke up last night and do some patrol in the area. So I'm just going to now carry on to the western side of the game reserve and see what we are going to find. So, but now let's go and see Hosanna himself after his treks.
Well, Hosanna, I still don't really know exactly what he's doing because I can't see him at all. So I'm just sitting watching the impalas, and I know it seems silly to be this far away, but it's a situation where I'm pretty sure if I drove anywhere close there, those impalas are going to spook and run as far as they can away from here. So I'm just sort of enjoying the fact that we can be quite far away and it's quite open, that we can still see what's going on, but in no way really impact what's happening. Now, these impalas have been like this since before we even got here. We could see them right from the top of the ridge as we were coming off quarantine, and their behavior is exactly the same. They're kind of trotting up and down around the side of this waterhole, and I think they're just too scared to drop their head down for any sort of period of time and drink, because they know as soon as they go down towards the water, there's a sort of bowl effect that this little pan has, and they will not be able to see over the log and over the ridge, and so they're nervous of that. Maybe they've seen Hosanna hunting here over the past few days and are wary of the fact that there might be a predator, and so that's why they're not committing to actually drinking. You can see they've just run off now a little bit further. I wonder if that's them going to go far away now. And the little male that's here, I think for some reason might be that it's his mom, from beginning of this year. That's why it's following that female around. Wherever the female goes, the little male is right behind. I don't think it's a situation where he's thinks he's got a chance of mating, because he's still very small. And if this female is an estrus, she probably would be accompanied by a much bigger individual. But let's see, they've come back again. So this is exactly what happens, is they keep running and then coming back, running and coming back, running and coming back. And it's really kind of, you can see they're very confused as to where they want to go, but the water is essentially what they need. And as the sun comes up, it becomes easier for them to probably come and drink, because as the sun comes up, they're going to be able to see better. You know, at night, the senses of Hosana are going to be far better than what you're going to see from, well, then let's say the likes of an impala, and so it's more in his favor. But now, as the sun gets up, they can see better, and hopefully they'll be able to get to have a drink without being disturbed too much. Now, a lot of you say that I don't know where Hosana is. Well, we know Hosana is off to the right-hand side. So he was seen on the dam cam this morning, so further right than that, David. But I just don't have a view of him. I think he's somewhere potentially behind these little thickets. That's where Exactly, so there we go. So that's where Kirsty is saying that he is. Now, that's where we think he is, but I don't want to drive there, because if I drive there, then these impalas immediately are going to look at what I'm doing and potentially then spot Hosana. So I'm trying not to... So, for those of you who don't know who Anderson and Tumba is, well, Anderson is a massive male leopard, probably one of the biggest male leopards that I've seen, and he is dominant to the west of us. So we have seen him once or twice on live drives when we were traversing Arathusa, and he was embroiled in a fight with somebody. Whether it had been a Tumba or not, we don't know, but it seems as though he lost his eye. So he's got this really nasty wound on his eye, and it looks as though the eye is no longer in the socket anymore. And then yesterday he was found yesterday morning in a tree with an impala carcass, with Tumba precariously perched up in the trees. So Tumba is a young male leopard that was born to Tandi. It's her son before Klalamba, her current cub. And so poor little Tumba was perched up in the periphery of a tree. Now, I spoke to the guys that were there yesterday afternoon, and they were telling me that Tumba actually had that kill first. So Tumba was the one that killed the impala, and then Anderson came in and stole it. Now, unfortunately for Tumba, Anderson, being the fact that he's got a bit of an injury and being about 3 times the size of poor little Tumba, has pushed him to the top of a tree. Now, he's apparently precariously placed on the periphery of a tree, that very uncomfortable, and he was there from about, well, as soon as they found him yesterday at 5:30, all the way until deep into the night. The guys left him at about 9 o'clock last night, and he was still up in the tree with Anderson sitting on his carcass and just staying there. So it's not a great place for Tumba to be. He's unfortunately going to have to just sit and wait it out and try and hope that he's going to, Anderson's going to finish the meal, come down and go for water and allow Tumba to escape. There's no ways that Tumba, in the size that he is, would be able to fight with Anderson and win that fight. Unfortunately, Anderson's just too much size, too much weight, and is probably a little bit more streetwise in terms of fighting as well. So if Tumba was the one that took out that eye, I would be seriously surprised. If you look at the wound and look at the sort of damage that's been done, there's already a bit of healing taking place, and that eye has been seeping for quite some time. And so it's matted his fur all over, which indicates that it is probably a situation where that eye was injured maybe a day, 2 days before, and so I think it's possible that he probably had a fight with somebody else, or there's many scenarios that could have taken place. I mean, a fight is obviously one thing, mating is another one. A female lashes out and claws him in the eye by mistake and pulls that eye out, and then of course he could have also happened in a hunting incident. It could have been a horn that got into the eye, it could have been a branch as he chased something and clashed or clattered into a warthog or something. A branch has just gone straight in. It's possible, but it's difficult to say. So I would be very, very, very surprised if Tumba was any way involved. I think Tumba, unfortunately, was in the wrong place at the wrong time and is now being sort of pushed up into the tree. And so hopefully this morning we'll get some more updates as to what happened to little Tumba, and hopefully he's okay. Not ideal that he's tangling with Anderson, but the only saving grace and the only good thing about this is that it might send our little boy back home, because as soon as he's had a clash with a big male like that, he might then be sent kind of packing and come back to Djuma, much like Hosana has done, and kind of move back into his natal area for a bit more safety. But yes, Kirsty, I think Anderson does need an eye patch, although I don't think he could have started looking any more sort of intimidating than what he is now. You know, when I first saw Anderson, he's got this seriously intimidating stare. I'll try bring up a photo for those of you who don't know who Anderson is. I'll try and kind of get a picture for you quickly, and we'll try and see if I can show you the picture of what he looks like now. So I'm just trying to scroll through. Give me 2 seconds. Photoshop a pirate patch on his eye. Okay, Kirsty. Well, you'll have to give me a bit more time to do that on the fly here. I suppose I could, but it would be a bit of a mission. Let me try and see if I can find it here quickly. Because he really is a sort of intimidating fella when he stares at you. Maybe that's not the best one. Let's try to find it. There we go. Right, so that's what he looked like prior to having his face torn up a little bit, but you can see he's an intimidating fella and not really one that you would want to tangle with at the best of times. So he really is a big unit, and one that you would not sort of want to get into a fight with, and especially if you're a small leopard or smaller leopard like Tumba. Obviously Tumba is not small, but he's only 2 years old as opposed to Anderson. And now I've got to try and find the photo from one of the guys from yesterday that they took. There we go. So I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this, but we'll just show you again now. But that's as of yesterday. One of the guys from Londolozi took this, and he, unfortunately, you can see, has got an injury to that right eye, which is making him look a little bit more gangster, and he's certainly now got a bit more of an intimidating factor to him. And you can see that that's all swollen there, and inside there doesn't look like there's any semblance of an eye left. But, like I say, he's going to be some animal to tangle with. He's certainly going to strike fear into the hearts of many. And I was thinking about it last night. Can you imagine if you were new to the bush and you didn't really know what was going on, and you walked down a pathway and that appeared out of the dark at you with one eye? I think you would be absolutely petrified if you did. Now, I believe Hosanna is looking very alert at these impalas, which have now bolted and run quite far. Now they're coming back towards the waterhole. It's quite strange behavior. I would have thought that these impalas, once they'd bolted, would have run. We know that Galago Pan has got water at it, which is just on the other side of this camp. So if they just ran around the side, they would have easily been able to kind of go and get water on the other side. But I suppose they are intent on drinking here. And so while we wait for this to all unfold and see exactly how this plays out, let's send you back across to Sydney, who I'm sure is blazing. Oh, not blazing. He's not blazing at all. If he was blazing, he would be burning. But I was going to say he's basking in the sunshine that is slowly starting to rise on a termite mound.
It was a lovely sighting for the impala. I am now right on top of one of the biggest houses in the area. Underneath the ground here is where the termites are staying. And the termites, it's quite a lot of them underneath this ground. Here where I am only, they can be close to 1 million, or sometimes can be even more than 1 million. So termites, a termite mound is like a big construction site without a foreman, without a supervisor. They all have one common goal. These insects are very much interesting. And if you can check, the queen and the king are the only two responsible of reproduction. The rest of the termites in there are sterile. There's quite a lot of different departments under the ground. But now, I want to tell you the story about this termite mound. So, these insects, they are kind of a main source of food where I come from. I grew up eating the termites a lot. Both the soldiers, including the workers, as well as the reproductives. The reproductives, I'm talking about the ones that flies. And the reproductives, we even use them as fat. These termites, we come and harvest them, we dry them as well so that they can at least stay much longer, so that we can eat them whenever we want to do so. So, the termites, if you want to take them, this is what you do. We come, and then we take grasses, long grasses like this. And then before we go to the termite mounds, because we go with the elders, they send us to go and buy snuff. And we go and buy snuff. Coming back here, we take these grasses and we put snuff on them so that they can smell. When we put this grass under the ground, the termites are going to pick up that scent and they will react. When they come to bite the grass, that is when you will see us taking them out. But at the same time, when we are busy harvesting, the termites will be trying by all means trying to fight against us. You will see the workers biting the grasses and the soldiers biting the grasses. And when they are doing so, at the same time, you see the workers trying to close the tunnels. If you leave that hole or the tunnel that you have dug in order to put the grass in, if you leave it for a few minutes, it's going to close again. So if you leave it for 10 minutes, coming back, you must have to open. They are so very, very much fast. So if you just leave that little tunnel unattended, you will see in a very short space, they are going to close it again. So these kind of insects are very much rich in terms of things such as iron. And they are very much nice. We fry them, so we just mix them with some cook oil and we fry them and then eat. So they are very much nice. Now, I do eat the termites still. So the termites, if we've got them by the camp, I'll cook them one day so that my other colleagues can also have a taste. So they taste very nicely. So I like termites and I love them too much. So now I am going to carry on and see what else we can find in the area. Still, my operations will be towards the western side of the game reserve. So now let's go to James and see if there is any other activities taking place by his sighting.
We're hoping desperately for some wild dogs, actually. There are tracks going up this road now. Need to get onto the Game Drive radio. Unfortunately, somebody is making a long speech that would make Obama's Mandela lecture yesterday seem like a tiny little contribution to the world's oratory. Shut up! Orbs, these are small hyena tracks. I do not have the dog tracks here. There we go. That's all I needed to say. So let me just tell you what's going on here. No, he's missed that one. I don't have the tracks. These were small hyena tracks. Right, so down towards the east of where we are, into the, well, sort of south of the rising sun, southeast if you like, there were some tracks of wild dogs coming up towards this area. We went on a big loopy to come round and see if we could find anything here. We don't have any tracks at the moment. But Aubrey from Uyatela, which is of course a tourism camp next to which we live, part of Djuma, is coming up this way on the tracks. So with any luck, he will find them. Let's just have a little squiz around here. It looks like we might have some tracks here. I just want to look on the ground. Basically what you're looking for is, well, it looks like the track of a dog you might find on the beach. But there has been the confusing movement of a small hyena up this road. We could have been following the dogs, I suppose. Thank you for laughing at me, everybody. You mustn't laugh at me. I feel very, I wonder if this isn't them here. I can't tell what's going on here. I can't tell, everybody. They're going around and around and around. I wonder if they haven't trotted off down that little game path there. I'm going to get out of the car and stay with me. Shout if you want to link away, Kirsten. You can tell Sebastian, who will then inform me. Of course, the first thing you have to do is listen. No, I think we're okay. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. Breaking up? This pack, it needs to be thrown in the dustbin. Yeah, is it still breaking up?
No, it's better.
Sorry about that, everybody. There's a track. That is definitely a high track. I'm going to go around the back of the car. Excuse me while I disappear. You will see me the other side. I'm back. All righty, we'll keep having a look here. Tristan still with the small chief.
I am indeed, James, and he is locked onto the fact that there's a male impala by itself. Now, the female impala ran away, and the male has gone down to actually drink, and so he's trying to worm his way towards the edge of the pan, so that if that impala comes around the pan, that he can go after it. But I think he's, unfortunately, taken too long, because the male impala has had a drink and has now run away. Unfortunately for our little prince, he's lost out for now. So the impala drank for a long time. The whole time that we kind of were here, the impala's been drinking, and he was so sleepy that he didn't really look up until the impala had almost done drinking, and then he was trying to work his way through. You can actually hear there's a squirrel that's alarm calling, so I'm pretty sure that would have set that impala off and made it run away as well. I can see the impala's quite far now, so I'm going to get a little closer so we can actually just see Hosana and see what he's actually up to. But it seems as though he's found himself the best little spot to stalk. There you go, you can see him. He's actually walking now, slowly slinking. Hosana, you've missed him. He ran away. So Sana is still trying to look for the impala that's no longer there. It ran away quite some time ago. Look, you see he's trying to peer over the top of the dam wall, and I think he thought that impala was still there, but unfortunately for him, the impala ran away quite some time ago, so he's left staring into nothing at this stage. But anyway, very, very cute to see. He's such a cool leopard. So much character, this fella. Now, Dory, in terms of how successful a one-eyed leopard can be in terms of hunting or just surviving, very successful is the answer to that. There's been many, many one-eyed leopards in the Savi Sands that have survived just fine. So, in fact, the lineage of Hosana, where his kind of lineage comes from, Safari, his grandmother, she had one eye for many, many years, in fact about 7 years, and survived just fine. There's currently now alive in the western side of Djuma, on Simambili area, is in Sele. She's only got one eye. You've got a situation where there was the Sand River male. There's multiple different leopards that have had one eye, and they all do just fine. The thing is that obviously, being a depth perception animal, it's not ideal. It takes a bit of an adjustment period, but for the most part, these guys figure it out quite quickly, and they'll use their other senses like hearing, their whiskers, their sense of smell, and even the one eye itself will be able to kind of work it out. The good thing in Anderson's case is, even if he's lost one eye, being the biggest and the sort of scariest of all the leopards in that area, it pretty much means that he can go around and steal from any other leopard he wants to. He's not going to have too much of a situation that he has to worry about, bar maybe if he runs into Flat Rock male, which is another big male down in that area. But for the most part, he's not really going to have to worry about stealing from females and the rest, and so, he'll be just fine. I don't think he'll going to have to worry too much about Anderson. It's not ideal that he lost an eye, and shame. It must be very painful and not very comfortable at all, but at the end of the day, he will still survive. He's not going to actually just die from it and be in a situation where he's rendered completely useless. He will be able to hunt. He will be able to survive. There's been many different leopards, like I say, that have overcome losing an eye or going blind in an eye and survived just fine. So I think he'll be okay. Hosana, look at that look. It's just the look of, where did it go? What happened? Shame, boy. Did you not see your impala run away? You can see he's almost disappointed. He's like, this is not fair. There was an impala there, but somebody's moved it. You were too slow, Hosana, I'm afraid. There's also a squirrel that's shouting at him, which is going to probably stop most other antelope coming down to have a drink. Yeah, unfortunately, he was too sleepy in his long grass. He had kind of curled himself up, and only when he really realized that impala had already done what it needed to do and get out. Nancy, no, I mean, all leopards, well, not all leopards, but a lot of leopards end up having siblings, and it doesn't mean that they go less solitary. I think Hosana maybe it was the fact that he just didn't, his mother didn't kick him out or chase him out or stop sort of feeding him. He had an abrupt end to that, and maybe that's why he has this social side to him. Also, every leopard is different. They all have different sort of temperaments and different personalities, and maybe Hosana, for some reason, just likes the company of others. And I mean, obviously with Tingana, his behavior is very odd because Tingana's behavior is quite strange. You know, Tingana just doesn't really care too much about Hosana. It was very funny watching the interaction yesterday. I went back and watched some of the footage from the dam cam, and you know, the way that Tingana just walks in and is calling, and Hosana just sits there drinking water as though that means nothing, and then plops down next to his dad is just pretty insane. So, yeah, I mean, I think his experience so far has not led him to a fact that he needs to be too cautious. You know, he's had Tumba follow him around, and Tumba being a young male, also probably looking for a bit of company in the fact that his mom left him quite early. So they've had a few sort of meeting up. He's spent time with Shadow, he's spent time with Thandi, and all of them have never really been that aggressive to him. And so maybe he's just in a situation where he's not that fearful of other leopards, particularly leopards he knows, like Tingana and maybe even Thandi if she were to arrive here. So it's kind of interesting to see his behavior. I don't think it's anything to do with the fact that he had a sibling. I mean, you know, there's many leopards out there that have had siblings and don't behave like Hosana. I think it's more just learned behavior and a situation of circumstance that got him to this point. But it's not like we're going to complain. He's provided us with such amazing sightings, and given the fact that he's, you know, this young boy that's kind of changed a lot of perceptions about leopard. I mean, many people, if you describe these stories to them, they would tell you that that's nonsense, that a leopard wouldn't behave like that. But as we've seen with our boy, he somehow manages to charm even the biggest males in the form of Tingana. And he's also, I mean, it's not like he's not tried his luck with Hukamuri too. I mean, he's bumped into Hukamuri a few times and doesn't really seem too perturbed. As much as he runs away from him, he's not really that perturbed by it and doesn't kind of panic and sort of run for his life. And we see him on the other side of the universe after a run-in with Hukamuri. I remember the first time it happened with Brent. The next day he was at Twin Dams. He hadn't really gone very far at all. He was quite happy to just sort of hang around in the area. So it's interesting, his behavior. It's something different, and you know, whether or not he's going to continue to be like that, I'd highly doubt it. I would imagine there's going to be a situation which, as he gets older and more dominant, so that urge to mate and that drive of testosterone coming through him as he is mating is going to make him a lot more aggressive and a lot more sort of defensive of his territory and actively patrolling it and keeping other males at bay. So, you know, it will be interesting to see. I mean, I don't really know what the future holds for Hosana in terms of where he's going to end up. It's obviously a difficult time now because he's getting bigger slowly but surely, and he's looking for an area in order to establish himself. But where he wandered off to down to Londolozi is not really the best place for him. There's a lot of other leopard down there that are big individuals. We know Anderson, River Rocks, there's a whole bunch of them down there, and so that's not ideal. Then he's got Hukamuri slightly to the west. So where he is right now is actually the safest place, and his timing might be absolutely spot on. And I say that because what's happening now is that he's got a situation where he's come back. Tingana's obviously come back into shape and is actively patrolling, which is keeping all these other males at bay. And so far, it seems Tingana is still very tolerant of Hosana, and that means that Hosana can grow under the safety of Dad and get bigger and bulkier. But by the time sort of a year rolls around, Tingana's going to be almost 13, which means that he's going to be quite old and on the older side of a male leopard. And we know with Mvula we saw a rapid decline in his condition as he went from sort of 12 to 13, and it might be the perfect time for Hosana just to slot himself in here and be able to kind of establish himself as a dominant individual. And this whole story reminds me a lot of an individual down in the south of the Sabi Sands called the White Dam male. Now, he was also a very young individual, and he just somehow managed to get in and worm his way in between Mashaben and some of the other boys there, and has ended up staying and is mated and is kind of part of the furniture there and is a dominant individual theoretically. I mean, he's still a young boy. He's only, I think, 3.5 now, if I remember correctly. And so, you know, he's in a situation where he's managed to pull off sort of seemingly unbelievable task, which maybe Hosana is going to be the same and is going to be able to do the same thing and end up being a dominant individual. But he's busy watching birds now. That's what he's kind of peering at. There's some green pigeons and brown-headed parrots that had come down to drink, and so that's what he's busy kind of checking out. We'll see where he ends up. But while we wait for him to decide what he wants to do, let's send you back across to James, who is with, well, Juma's version of the migration.
Yes, we have got here some wildenbeesten, and these wildenbeesten are very peacefully grazing in the morning. which is what they should be doing, of course. It's turned into a rather pretty morning, I must say. I think that the wild dog tracks that I thought we had were in fact hyena tracks, so a very small hyena, so I'm not going to worry too much about them. And of course, as Kirsten says, it is of course Wim the Wildebeest Doornbrak's birthday. Now, if you are not familiar with Wim the Wildebeest Doornbrak, he is a camera operator / technical genius / gypsy who works for us. He is currently in the Masai Mara. And so we wish him all the very best. He is now, how old is he now? About 68. No, I don't know how old he is. I think it's not his 30th birthday. Is he not 30? He might be 30, everybody. Might be a big day for him. Jerry apparently thinks he's 31. Well, he might be 31. Anyway, it's his birthday. Very silent morning, just the odd parrot calling. And you might just be able to hear the footfall of the wildebeest. Just in theory, yes, he could take one of these wildebeest, but he'd be ill-advised to. They're very big. There'd be no real point in him taking one of these chaps if he could have an impala, say, which would do him far less damage should it take displeasure, or should it find that it didn't really want to be eaten. He could definitely take a young one, and would quite likely take a very young one. None of these ones are particularly young, though. Most of them now into their 8th month. I mean the little ones that you can see here. Obviously some of the adults are much older than that. And so it's very unlikely that he would waste his time with a hoid like this when there are impala and duiker all over the place. Apparently Wim is 32 years old, which is of course substantially older than any of these wildebeest are going to get. Bad luck, chaps. I'm afraid you will never be 32. And in case anyone's wondering, I'm 28. Aren't I, Sebastian?
Mm-hmm.
That's good, well done. 28 years old. I know I look 21, but I am actually 28. Now, far more importantly than guessing my age, of course, is that Wim Doornbrak shares a birthday with a fairly illustrious South African. Fairly illustrious, possibly the most illustrious South African, definitely the most illustrious South African. And that's not me. That is, of course, Nelson Mandela, who would have been 100 today. Would that most of the politicians in the world could have emulated him. We certainly haven't managed to emulate him yet in this country. I dare say there are many others in the world that haven't either. Marvellously peaceful sighting. You can also maybe just about hear some drongos going. Yeah, there is one there. He's whistling quietly. Thank you, Wisteria. You sound pretty well pickled for 28. I don't think that that's very fair, but yes, probably. I'm not actually 28, you see, Wisteria, which you probably knew anyway. I'm the wrong side of 40 these days. That's pretty old, really. 40 years. It's not as old as Mandela. This herd is coming closer and closer to us. And they don't normally do that. They're normally very, very kind of reticent to do that sort of thing. Now, Dr. Hyena, wildebeest do have a mating season. I'm just listening quickly to a radio broadcast. Okay. Their breeding season, or their mating season, is roughly in April, March, April, because they will give a birth. They will give birth during the rains, much at the same time as the impala do. So, sort of early December into late December. It's not quite as synchronized as the impala. It's pretty well synchronized, and so they do have a mating season. It's long over. Any female that is going to be pregnant is pregnant. Now, we've had reports of a leopard crossing into Juma on the southern boundary. Now, I suspect that can only be Tingana. We lost him yesterday, so with any luck we'll have him at the end of the drive. Ooh, some very angry drongos having a fight. It's a very, very gorgeous morning now. Sebastian and I, of course, are going to try and make the sighting last as long as possible, because sitting in the morning sun like this is a great, great thing after a chilly start to the dawn. Is it not, Sebastian?
Oh yeah. Defrosting.
We are defrosting. I may even be encouraged to take the blankie off my leggies at some stage. Not yet. Let's not be silly. Let's not be overzealous. You might also be able to hear the arrow-marked babblers babbling at each other. You can probably also see a slight breeze blowing through the grass there, just indicating that this cold front hasn't quite left us yet. Somebody else enjoying the sun, of course, is the little chief.
Well, it's not just him, James. I'm thoroughly enjoying the fact that we've got some sunshine on us as well. David, are you enjoying the sunshine? Yes, David is enjoying the sunshine. It was particularly cold this morning, so nice to have a bit of warmth on our backs as we sit and watch Hosanna take a little nap. So after kind of his disappointment, he's decided to hide himself in a little thicket, and he's now going to have a little sleep. You can see those eyes are very closed already. But how wonderful is it to have him back in this area? He's such a character, and he's really kind of, since he's been back, provided endless amounts of entertainment, really. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything better for his return, for him to come and plonk himself down at the dam and be basically viewable for 24 hours a day for the last 3 days. It's pretty insane that he's been here as much as he has, and I don't think he's going to go anywhere anytime soon. As long as Tingana comes past and is happy with him being here, I doubt he's going to be pushed off anywhere. He's found himself the perfect spot to hunt, and he seems to be using it to his advantage. And you can see every morning he's lying in the same place, trying to hunt the animals in the same way. And so it seems as though it's the perfect sort of scenario for him. He's got the captive audience in terms of animals that have to come and drink, and it's a small pan that is built perfectly for a leopard to hunt. You can see it's got this steep bank, so anything that's drinking on the other side there cannot see anywhere where this bank is, and so he can use this bank to kind of go either side and hunt animals as they go, or as they come in to drink. So it's the perfect sort of scenario for a leopard. And like I say, as long as Hukamuri doesn't come through and Tingana is still actively patrolling, I think Hosanna will be just fine in terms of sitting around in these areas. You might find he wanders a little bit, but I don't think he's going to go too far anytime soon. Of course, saying that, he might just disappear this afternoon and walk southwards or northwards or anything like that, but it seems as though he's quite happy just to be sort of stationary and wait. Now, MVP, no, not really. I mean, Hosanna, I suppose there's always that threat in that he is a big cat and he is a wild animal, and you can never be 100% sure that he might not try something. But I doubt that Hosana would do anything to anyone. The camp itself it does have an electric fence around it. Not that that would stop a leopard. A leopard would easily be able to get in there. But, Hosana on foot, from what we've seen, is a very relaxed individual, is not aggressive in any way. And so I don't think he would be too much of a stress. The only thing that would be potentially dangerous would be if children are running around. So if there's small kids, which sometimes the camps do get. So if you had, kids that are like 3-4 years old and they're running around, that might entice him to try and chase them, but I doubt it. I mean, Hosana has been around camps so much since he's been born. I mean, he spent a lot of time around this camp, he spent time around Chitwa, and he hasn't caused any problems whatsoever. When he was at Chitwa, he used to walk through dinner, apparently, and just lie down and flop down on the deck while everybody was having dinner. So it's a situation where he's fairly comfortable around sort of human presence, which at this stage, while he's healthy and fit and a young individual, is really not a problem at all. I mean, obviously, I think if you've got to be still careful, like I say, and still cognizant of the fact that he is a big cat, and that potentially, if he, instinct can take over and he could potentially, try and chase somebody down. But I highly doubt it. There's more than enough food for him out here. He's strong and healthy enough to catch his own food, and so him going into a camp and actually trying to hurt somebody would be a massive shock and surprise to me. I don't think he would really need to in any way whatsoever. But like I say, you can never be 100% certain of these things, and kids are always an issue, particularly for a young leopard. Young leopards, will see a kid and it's almost like an easy opportunity for them, and so that, you've got to be a bit careful with kids around leopards and them running around. Luckily though, like I say, there's this fence around the camp and there's a lot of people moving, and that's enough of a deterrent to keep him out during the day when kids are running about. And at night, no one's really walking around too much without any sort of escort and being shown where to go. So there is things put in place to try and avoid any incidents with any of our cats. But in the time that he's been here, and the time that he's kind of been sitting around this dam, he hasn't actually gone to the camp once. He's been hanging around the pan here. His interest is not in the camp. So even though he's been seeing people going up and down and walking around on the decks there, his focus isn't solely on trying to kind of hunt animals at the pan itself. So his food item is not people, and therefore he's not going to go to the camp to try and hunt people if he can hunt impalas and duikers and all kinds of other things that are coming down. Now, I believe this morning he did have a little breakfast snack of a gerbil. I believe somebody said he caught a gerbil, which is not surprising in any stretch of the imagination. Good, well, he's going to probably have a bit of a nap. The morning will warm up and hopefully animals will come down to drink, and so while we wait and see if animals do come and if our little boy is going to wake up, let's send you back across to Sydney and see how his walk is going.
I've got one of the very, very much well-designed, well-built web. This is from a tropical tent web spider. Spiders can be very much interesting. How they build, look at this. It's like a tropics, eh? So now, I want to share with you something. Let me just touch. Yeah, it's not that very hard. It's very soft. So this kind of silk from the spiders, it can be used in order to make a lot of things. The spider webs can be used in order to make the bulletproofs. It can also be used in order to make the seat belts. Some of the people, they are even making the parachutes from the spider webs. The problem is the production of silk by the spiders. It's not very easy since the spiders are cannibalists. Cannibalism, I'm just talking about the predators who tend to feed on each other. So it means for the production of bulletproofs and everything from the spider webs is not going to be easy because they kill each other. Also, male and females, shortly after mating, the male must have to run away. If he doesn't run, female is going to catch him and eat him so that the female can be able to produce eggs. So you can see life by the spiders is very much interesting and is very tough. So the spider webs, They are here as a trap. These are sit and wait predators. They don't want to hunt. All they want to do is to wait until something comes. And if something doesn't come, they don't mind. They will wait because it can take time before they have their next meal. I just want to quickly try and investigate. I can hear some noise from the western side, this side of the park. I think there is some buffaloes walking around here. I just want to quickly try and investigate. Maybe we might be lucky this morning and come across the big animal, the buffalo. Yeah, the sound is coming from this side, not far away from where I am. I can't hear anything now, but I definitely heard some. Yes. Oh, yeah, here comes the buffalo. I can see now. It's on a very long distance, but I can see stationary feeding there. I think there is a head of buffalo here. I'm not sure how many they are, but things are happening. Maybe it's two or many. I'll just try to investigate and go closer a little bit and see if we can have a better sighting. So now we can go to Tristan and Hosanna and see what they're doing on the other side.
Well, that's quite a nice surprise, Sydney, to have some buffalo on foot. It's been a long time since I've seen even buffalo tracks here. The only buffalo signs I've seen have been fairly old, so it's a welcome sight on Djuma. It's kind of a strange thing that the buffalo numbers are not what they used to be. In winters gone by, I remember in 2011, 2012, this area, you know, buffalo was something in winter that you saw almost daily in big groupings. We used to get a massive herd that used to come through here in this sort of northern sector. It used to go from Djuma and then it would go to Chitwa Dam. And then from Chitwa Dam it would cut through Little Growry and Hofmans and then towards the western side towards a very big dam called Big Dam, actually. And then from there into Londo's, and then it would come back around and come here and then up into Djuma and back up into Manyeleti and Buffelshoek area. But that herd at times, I remember when we had the flooding here in 2012, that herd was over 1,000 individuals that used to walk through here. So pretty insane when you see that many buffalo. And to think nowadays we celebrate seeing a single buffalo just goes to show you what an effect that drought had on our buffalo population. But nice to hear that they are back and around, and hopefully that will entice the Voka boys to come back onto Djuma as well. I'm quite keen to actually see them. I want to see how much they've developed. I believe they were seen last night on Torchwood, so they were calling and making a lot of noise, and it sounds like they were now heading sort of southwards towards Nkoro, or at least that's what the tracks are doing. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go and where they've ended up. But as you can see, Hosanna is in no mood for any energetic movement at this stage. He's just having a good nap. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, but, you know, Hosanna is not the first very relaxed leopard that I've seen. You know, Salahesh is a prime example of this. So Salahesh was a leopard that we used to see at Simambili in the camp. In fact, she had 6 litters in the camp underneath the deck. So if you have a look in front here, there's a room that's there. There's like a swimming pool, basically, and underneath there's a little deck. And so it's the perfect place for a leopard to hide cubs, and they do it very regularly. And so Salahesh had 6 different litters in her time, and as she got older and she got so comfortable with people that you could walk down the path and she would walk maybe 5-10 meters in front of you and just walk as though you weren't even there, as though you were kind of going for a stroll with a pet down the road. It was pretty odd. And I remember one day I found her on the pathways, as she was often there, and she was walking straight towards me, and so there was nowhere for me to go other than just to step off the path. And so I stepped off the path maybe about 5 to 10 steps. It was not far at all, and just watched her, and she walked right past, looked at me, and just carried on going as though nothing happened. And she never actually became a threat. We never had any incident with her being aggressive, never had an incident with her chasing anybody, even with her cubs being within that area. And so, you know, these leopards, they know where food is, they know what food they like to hunt, and I suppose there's always a possibility that a leopard can become aggressive if it goes into bad condition, if it gets a situation where it's really struggling to hunt and it gets hungry. But as long as a leopard is healthy like this, then, you know, its fear of humans is not really what drives it not to hunt us. It's the situation where they don't see us as food, they see other animals out here as food, and as long as they can get food from impalas and duikers and squirrels and all these kind of other things, they'll rather hunt those things because they know people are dangerous in some respects. So even though they've lost a fear of us, they still are wary of us. So if I got out the car now and walked at Hosana, he'll run from me. He's not going to just lie there. He's going to jump up and he's going to run away. And so, you know, he's not inclined to try and kind of hunt me down, because there's much easier animals to hunt and much less dangerous animals to hunt. It's almost like lions in a way. If you think of lions when they're in big prides, they'll go after a buffalo if they can, but when they're by themselves, they know a buffalo is very dangerous and they then try and kind of steer away from it. So even though they'll eat a buffalo if it's there and dead already, they would rather not hunt them if they're a single individual, and rather target other sort of or other animals. So I mean, I don't stress about Hosana at all. For now, he's not a leopard that comes and lies in camp and just sits there and, you know, sniffs around people's rooms and does all those kind of things. He's around the camps and he's very relaxed with us, but he's in no way shown any sign where he's got an overly active interest in people on foot or people within a camp situation. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be just fine. I don't think we need to worry too much. There's been a few leopards that have been a bit dicey and in the past and have had a situation, and most of those are animals that are very old, that have got some sort of body issue, whether it's kidneys that are failing or have TB, and then they start to come into the camp, not for people, but actually going into the kitchens, and they try and scavenge. I remember there was a story of a leopard on Tortured, and I can't remember which leopard it was, but it was an older male. It was a long time ago, and he was found in the kitchen at the camp, and he was busy trying to pull meat out of the fridges and all kinds of things. So they start going that direction more than they'll go towards humans. So I don't stress too much about Hosana at all. I think Hosana would be absolutely fine, and while, you know, he is a relaxed individual, I don't think we need to worry about him that much. He's pretty much knows what food is out here and what he wants to hunt. So Ryan, the point of the electric fence, if it doesn't deter predators, is actually to keep, more than anything, to keep out hippos and elephant. Those are the two most dangerous things out here in terms of walking around at night. Lions also probably won't jump that. It's a bit much for a lion, but a leopard is just a supreme escape artist or entry artist, and we'll just get into that no problem whatsoever. So, you know, the point is to rather try and keep out marauding herbivores in the forms of the big pachyderms and hippos, because, like I say, they roam around at night and they'll happily get into a camp and cause a lot of trouble. The thing with lion and leopard is it's very seldom that they spend massive amounts of time in a camp, so they don't go and lie there and then sit for long periods and kind of actively feed inside there, unless of course they catch something. But most of the time they just pass through and they'll hunt a little bit and then drag the carcass out, in my experience. So, you know, it's more to protect against those big animals. It's not actually so much for things like leopard. Some camps don't have fences at all. Some camps are completely open, and don't worry about it and allow the animals to come through. And it's part of living out here. You've just got to be aware of what's going on. I mean, this is quite a serious fence, and the reason why this fence is so much more serious is because there's a lot of kids that come to this camp, and so they've made it very, very kind of sturdy to try and stop anything from coming in. Right, well, Hosana is still sleeping, but it sounds like Sydney has gotten much closer to those buffalo.
It's quite an amazing sighting this morning. I'm so very happy to find the buffaloes very stationary feeding, and it's quite a very big herd. I cannot even see how many they are here. So the buffaloes are one of the largest grazers. So they spend much of their time during the day resting in dongas, and then late afternoon you will see they go, or during the day, and do some mud wallowing. So the old males from the herds, you will see them walking by themselves, those which are called the Dhaka boys. Dhaka is just another way of saying mud. It's like the mud boys. because of rolling in mud, they got a name associated with that. So it's only... A question from Peter. The question about the lion prides and lion coalitions following the buffaloes. Not every herd, not lions are after all the heads of buffaloes. Sometimes it gets very difficult to hunt the big animals such as the buffaloes. So there are some birds which has just arrived now, oxpeckers. I think they are chasing one of the biggest birds. Maybe that bird does predate them. Jason, the buffaloes, their smell is not quite the same as the cattle's. It's a little bit different. But if you can check their droppings, they look the same. And they've got the same kind of a digestive system as well, but the smell is completely different. So I can see the buffaloes are now getting confused because the birds were just making a lot of noise, circling as they're fighting one of the big birds there. So I'm just going to whisper now because I can see that they are now trying to investigate what's happening. So I don't want them to accidentally hear about my presence. Some of them are feeding, whereas some of them, I can see the nose are high. They're trying to pick up the information from the wind. They've got a very good sense of smell. So let's go to James. James has got some nyalas on the other side. I just don't want to make noise at all because I can see now here they are investigating me.
Well, we've got some nyala here, and you can see that they are looking a little bit alarmed. Not panicked in any way, but certainly alarmed. And they're not looking at us. So they're looking at something. Well, obviously, they're not blind. And we are in the area around about where we would have expected Tundi to come wandering across. So what we're going to do is just gently...
Well, now it seems that James has got a few gremlins that he's busy dealing with, and so, well, you're back with us in a sleepy Hosanna, and so hopefully James will sort things out. I know he's trying to find Tundi. We got an update that Tundi crossed this morning very quickly and has arrived sort of in Juma, and I wonder if it is Tundi and maybe not Kuchava. I wonder if something's been mixed up there. It'll be interesting to see, but hopefully James will be able to find it. Now, Kirsty, do you mind if we go to the FLIR image shortly? And I'll tell you why, but you see there's a little patch of shade on his sort of left ear. Now, if we go to the FLIR image and you look at just how much sun warms a leopard, look on his left ear there, you see that it's purple. So it's much, much colder where the shade is than where the sun is. It just goes to show why the cats often lie out in the sun on a winter's morning, is to try and warm up, because in shade it just shows you how quickly they lose temperature, and it's a perfect sort of place where the shade is hitting him that he's getting a little cooler in that particular area. You can also see he's got the typical cold nose that many of our cats have, that you see in the thermal imaging. They kind of get a cold face and nose, and you can actually see anywhere where the sun is not hitting is much colder than where the sun is actually hitting at the moment. So I can attest to that it is much warmer with the sun on my back than it is in the front side where it's kind of shadowed and cold. What do you think, David? Yes, so a clever cat to be curled up and just trying to find himself a little bit of sunshine just to heat up his nose and his face and making himself nice and warm. The good thing, though, where he's lying now, he's managed to find himself a nice spot in order to hunt from. If there's any other animals that come here, they're going to have to be very keen sort of sensors to pick him up. He's in a situation where he's behind this thicket, so he's got a few little branches and leaves and all kinds of things that are hiding him from the pan itself. And so what he's going to do from here is he will be able to actually launch an attack if anything comes from the lodge side and moves sort of behind him, or if anything comes the other way, then he can use these bushes to try and stalk and get quite close and then just cause a bit of a panic. And I was saying to Dave now, I wonder if he would hunt the wildebeest herd and if he would try and take any of those young wildebeest, because they do come down here. It would be very, very interesting to see if he would try. I know that there has been male leopards in the past that have taken wildebeest, and in fact his dad was a very good wildebeest hunter. Tingana often used to go after young wildebeest. Aegis, yes. So unfortunately, when Ellies show up, pretty much everybody moves off. And so if a big group of elephants come and they move towards where he is now, then he will move off and just try and find somewhere else to lie down. The thing about leopard is elephants generally don't get too upset with leopards. They'll chase them a little bit, but they're not really that worried. They're far more aggressive towards lions than they are towards a leopard. Unless, of course, that leopard is killing their baby. So there was a situation down in the south where a leopard grabbed a elephant calf, and that elephant did not like that at all and proceeded to chase that leopard absolutely everywhere and flattened a few trees that the leopard tried to hide in. It was quite something to see. I wasn't there personally, but I saw the video of it, so it's pretty amazing kind of to watch that take place. So, but generally, if the elephants go and drink and he's here and they don't actually come this way, you might find he just watches the Ellies, and the Ellies won't be too perturbed. They know that he's not really a threat to them, and they won't chase him away. But if it was lions, different story. The Ellies would try and kind of chase him, or chase the lions as much as possible to get them out of here. With the leopard, well, it's not that bad. But he's definitely in the right place. There's, like I say, as it warms up, there's going to be lots of antelope that are going to come down. There will be impalas, there will be bushbuck, there will be duikers, there will be, wildebeest, maybe even young zebras. And so those are all targets that he can hunt. And from where he's sitting right now, not only is he getting sun, but he's also in a prime place to execute a hunt if it needs to be. Right, so it sounds like James has kicked and chopped and done all his things that he needs to do and has gotten rid of those gremlins and hopefully is on the trail of Tundi.
Well, I haven't done anything. Suddenly our picture came back and now we have a male nyala around about where we're hoping Tundi will pop out. Somebody else is on the road to the south of us looking for tracks, and unfortunately they haven't found anything either. We will persist, however. This is a gorgeous male nyala, and it's always a good idea when you are waiting for a moving leopard to just be quiet for a while, listen out for alarm calls. Something moving up ahead of us. I think there's an elephant actually up ahead. Michelle, he is quite cute. I must say, I find them so magnificent, not just because of their looks, but because they're prepared to become confiding. You can get very close to a nyala on foot if it's spent time around camps. It doesn't see human beings as a threat. Righty, we're going to try and see if we can find this elephant. Sydney has got something else on his feet.
Beautiful zebras there. One of them is trying to scratch against the tree, is using the tree as a rubbing post just to get rid of the parasites. So zebras are one of those animals which can see very, very well. You can see they are all looking at the side. These are the bachel zebras. If you look at the stripes, the bachel zebra's stripes, they are not fully striped on the legs. As the mountain zebras, their stripes are halfway. If you can check stripes, they are fully striped on their front legs and also on their back legs. So the bachel zebras, they have got short elongated ears. The mountain zebras, they have got pointed ears. So young zebras, when they're still very new, they have got same kind of behavior as the elephants, where you will see their babies eating the droppings of their mothers just to get the digestive bacteria, because they are born free of those kind of bacteria. They must have to get them through the process of eating. So look, that other one is still trying to scratch there. You can see the tree is moving. So the area where that zebra is rubbing against now suddenly is going to become very smooth if these zebras keep coming back every time to do the same thing. So these animals depend on some of the birds in order to come and clean them. But zebras, apart from waiting for the birds, tick birds, they can also clean themselves. Sometimes you will see them also playing in dust. Yes, can you please, FC, repeat that question again? I didn't copy it nicely. YouTube viewer, the zebras, they make noise such as whip, 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 whip. Sometimes their noise is confusing considering the noise of the hornbills. Hornbills are one of the birds, and in the morning you will hear them making that kind of a noise as well. So they do make noise. So we can go to James. James has got something to show us on his side.
This is very special. We are very, very close to the pearl-spotted owl. Is that not a precious picture of this bird? Hey? Look at it. Utterly magnificent. It's so cross. They always look cross. It's probably not cross at all. It's so cross and so close. We don't ever get this close to them normally. And it's almost like he doesn't want to move because he's just so comfortable now in the sun. Now, many of you saying that this is a barred owlet and not a pearl-spotted owl. I was just actually looking at my at my book and agreeing with you. It is very embarrassing. As I said, this was a pearl-spotted owl. It is not a pearl-spotted owl. I do apologize profusely. I mean, that is really a basic error to make. I apologize very much. It really is deeply awkward. As I said, a pearl-spotted owl, I thought that's definitely not a pearl-spotted owl. I'm hugely embarrassed now. Obviously, no one in the final control believes that I had any doubt at all, so they're all just telling me I'm useless, which is fair enough. Really, that is a dreadful mistake to make. Let me see if I can slip this up, but see if we can't a bit. Basically, what you're looking for there is the bars on the top of the head, which are not spots, of course. Lisa, it's just difficult to see the size of the owl, isn't it, from this picture? The size of the owl is roughly... Oh, he's about 8 inches tall? No, he's not even that tall. Let me just get the exact... I've actually gone... Yeah, 8 centimeters. It's about 8 inches. It's really embarrassing. My profound apologies, everybody. I don't suppose anyone died as a result of my misidentifying this bird, but it is very embarrassing. Let me see if I can find you some interesting thing. Judy, you say everyone makes mistakes. Yes, but we shouldn't make mistakes like this, really. Interestingly, compared with the pearl-spotted owl, this bird eats more invertebrates, lizards and frogs. Larry, no, much smaller than a small turkey. It's a tiny thing, this. Check, the pearl-spotted owl is about the same size, yeah. Glaucidium capensi is his Latin name. Tim, you're absolutely right. I must suffer the deep, deep shame I've earned. You're completely correct. I am suffering as we speak. My heart is filled with a sense of self-loathing. I will probably flagellate myself when I get home with a thorned stick, maybe some ziziphus branches I will slap my own back with, and hope that that helps me to remember the next time I see this angry bird, which you can be stressed at having been confused with its slightly smaller cousin. I don't blame it. I would be very upset if I was one of these owls and some utter buffoon had made that mistake. I'm not the first person in the world to make that mistake, of course. Yep, larger owls certainly would hunt him, David. Any bird-eating predator would hunt him. Very special. Now, is he going to fly for us? Let's not hope he flies away. No, Chitty Chatty Meg, you'll find that most birds are able to turn their heads all the way, or not all the way around, but most of the way around. And it has something to do with the fact that it doesn't cut off the blood flow to their brains. So, while one side of the blood flow closes off as they turn their heads, the other side does not. They also don't choke like we might. So there's no ways that owl could turn its head all the way around, but certainly they can look 180 degrees with no problem whatsoever. But most birds can do that. Owls probably slightly more than others. The pearl-spotted owl, of course, will also eat other birds. Whereas this one will not. This is not a hawking owl species. It does always remind one of that cartoon of the chicken hawk. Remember that minute chicken hawk trying to catch the chicken? Many of you probably don't remember that. Anyway, I remember it fondly from my childhood. Yeah, Ravinda, animals that see well at night see very well in the day as well. They don't see colour, though, and it's a waste, of course, of their eye skills in the day. But I suspect also that although they can see well in the day, they probably are slightly more sensitive to the light than they might be otherwise. And some birds, some owls like the pearl-spotted, and possibly this one as well, are virtually diurnal in many respects. Just trying to see if this chap doesn't spend a bit more time around in the day. He looks so angry, you're right. Yeah, so it's just mostly active by day, but sometimes at night. At least mostly active at night, but sometimes by day. Apparently it likes to bathe regularly. I wish some of the people I knew would like to bathe regularly. Any of you remembering the chicken hawk from the cartoon? His name was Henry Hawk. He was being mobbed there by a white-crested helmet shrike. Kirsten now asking me if I'm sure it was a white-crested helmet shrike. It may have been a martial eagle. No sign of Tundi yet, but of course by now she could be anywhere. We'll keep looking as we go. I think he's just going to sit there quite peacefully. Yes, their feathers do look soft, don't they? I think it's because he's all puffed out because of the chilly morning. I don't think it's always that soft. I think quite often they would look a lot more wiry. He's looking towards where a woodpecker is pecking. Peck, 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 peck. It does look so very cross. Enraged. Maria, I don't know, you know. I don't think there's a reason for the yellow. There must be a reason for the yellow colour. I don't know what it is, though. I really couldn't tell you. I've got no idea why he should have yellow eyes. Angry as Henry the chicken hawk. Very sweet. There are some elephants behind us, but unfortunately they're very deeply in the thick bush, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to see them properly. They might come out. Martini, you say that this bird should be called Puff Daddy. Well, I have to admit I think that's quite clever. Insulting as it might be to the bird. Bird, would you like to be known as Puff Daddy? Not sure why anyone would like to be known as Puff Daddy, but there you go. I'm in a minority. I don't have millions of dollars as a result of being called Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy. Looking at something. Might take off shortly. Otherwise, almost as still as Hosanna in his enjoyment of the morning sun. Hello, William. William, they certainly are not brood parasites. There are no owls that are brood parasites, but they could lay their nests in other birds' holes, you know, if they sort of took the nests over. So, as far as I'm aware, there are no brood parasitic barred owls or any other owls. And a lot of them nest in tree cavities. And this was one of them that nests in a tree cavity. So, I mean, that tree cavity wouldn't have been dug by them. It could have been dug by a barbet and used by a barbet or by a lilac-breasted roller or kingfisher or something like that. So in that way they wouldn't, I suppose, lay their eggs in other birds' nests, but they are not brood parasites. It's a very comfortable day. But one does wish that the frustrated look on his face might disappear. What are you going to do today, little bird? Thank you, James Richard. I'm not sure if you're making this tongue-in-cheek or not. You said next time I'm not sure of a bird species, just throw it back at the viewers and call it a bird quiz. Yes, I could do that. The thing is that when I just looked at this bird, I immediately thought, oh, pearl-spotted owl, and I didn't look properly. And then as we went live, I looked at it and I thought to myself, you know, that's not a pearl-spotted owl, is it? As I was nailed by all of you who are obviously better at identifying owls than I am. Much to the delight of the directress today, Miss K. Mac-Smith. She says it is satisfactory. I think what she meant was it's satisfying. She's from Durban, though, so English is not her strong point. The next word I want to hear from you, Kirsten, is a French one that begins with T and ends in A. The sound A, not the letter. Now there's just a solely stony silence. Righty, I think we should probably move on from this owl, don't you, Sebastian?
Yeah.
He's not exactly... We've milked it for everything we can. There we are. I'll take one more illegal photograph. I have, of course, been waiting for him to take off so that I might get an illegal photograph of him in wing, as it were. But he's not doing that. None of my shots are blurry of this owl, Kirsten, so you'll have to just content yourself in the knowledge that the viewers beat me up today. Unfortunately for you, you did not. We're now going to go across to Tristan, who is a better photographer than I am.
Well, James, I don't know. You seem to be taking all kinds of nice images these days, and so who knows? But nowadays, I don't know. I feel like I'm losing my photographic touch. So James might be the one that takes over as the photographer. It seems as though he's practicing, especially when he's not supposed to be. But that's okay. This is part and parcel of what goes on. Sometimes it's nice to get a picture of these things, and especially if you've got an owl sitting very close to you, that's always very, very cool. Now, from one puffy bird to another, you can see that the green pigeons that are watching Hosanna, well, are as fluffed out and as puffy as could be as well. They're all enjoying a bit of sunshine. The tree is laden with them at the moment. There's a whole bunch of them all over the place that are kind of busy sitting, enjoying some sunshine, and then they come down and they drink a little bit. So they just fly down to the bottom, to the pan, and then they have a little drink. There's also, is that a spiritual starling or a grey go-away bird? I can't see on the monitor. A grey go-away bird. Sorry, I couldn't see where you were looking, but it is a grey go-away bird. It was quite funny. This one, I think it was this one that landed on the tree right above Hosanna's head, and when I say on the tree right above Hosanna's head, I mean literally there is a buffalo thorn above his head there. So that small spindly tree, that one right there, it landed there and proceeded just to shout at Hosanna as though in protest of the fact that there was a leopard sitting at the pan, and this go-away bird was thoroughly unimpressed by it all. It then decided that Hosanna was paying no attention to it, that it would fly away and go land somewhere else, and so I'm sure that's why it went off in that direction. But it's been really nice for birding. We've been sitting here and watching all kinds of birds coming down. There's been the go-away birds, we've had the green pigeons, the brown-eared parrots, there's been all kinds of things happening. A few barbets came past at one point, so I've thoroughly enjoyed, even though Hosanna's been quite sleepy and hasn't really done too much, it's been really nice just watching birds going about their business and doing their thing. It's always a nice place to sit and watch birds, because you've got this water point, and birds often do drink first thing in the morning, and there's nice big trees close by. They come down from the trees and then they drink, and it's kind of, especially if your cat is very fast asleep, it allows for some entertainment. Now, it sounds like there's also a report of tracks for lions somewhere around Vuyatela Access, as well as a leopard track that's up that way. So I wonder if there aren't some lions that have sneaked across. I know the Voca boys were seen on Tortured, so I wonder if they came from that way and then walked all the way into Kruger like they've done. They crossed into Kruger very close to the Nkoro boundary, which is a long way away from here, but not impossible given how much those boys like to walk. And they seem to be much like the Birminghams in that they use... Oh, look at that. See above his head there? There's a golden-breasted bunting above Hosanna's head in the tree. There we go. How beautiful is that? So these guys are very, very pretty. When you see them from the back, And they've got these kind of brown drab wings, and then as you see, the front section is this burnt orange and yellow, hence where the name golden-breasted bunting comes from. And I really like these birds. We see quite a lot of them in this area. That's a female, and if the male just actually flew past. I don't know if you saw him. He just kind of bounced through the frame there. But very, very, very pretty birds, and quite common here. We see a lot of them. There's also the cinnamon-breasted bunting as well that's around, so we'll try and see if maybe they come down too. So like I say, birding is pretty good here when you just sit and take notes. It's the best way to actually bird is just to sit in a spot and kind of watch around you. You know, driving a car is never the best to come across all kinds of birds because you miss a lot of things, particularly the small ones. So it's always nice just to kind of stop and then have a look around. So birding this morning has been very pleasant. I've thoroughly enjoyed actually sitting watching all the birds come down. But Hosana is, well, he's doing his best sleeping impression that he can. He is really fast asleep and is not interested in really very much at all. The only thing that's woken him up was a gargling pipe filling the dam. So, Anna Marie, in terms of how far I am away from Hosana right now, if you come back out, you'll see that I am not very far at all. I would say the distance from Hosana to where I am, maybe, what do you think, 15 meters, David? 15, 20 meters, somewhere around there. It's not very far at all. He's a cat that will lie even closer than this sometimes. He's not very sort of unrelaxed with vehicles, and so his position close to us would not really faze us. I mean, he does it quite often, and so this is actually quite far for Hosana's standards at times. Oh, hello, boy. Yes, we're talking about you. What have you heard? Amazes me how cats can go from fast asleep to very twitchy and very awake in the blink of an eye, and that's just because you might have heard something and then back down and, oh, well, is it too much this morning? It's been a tough evening of hunting and chasing and trying to find food. Seems like it. Ooh, Christy, that's a tough one actually. There's too many nice bird sounds out here to have an absolute favorite. I do like the sound of the woodland kingfisher, just from a point of view that it generally means summer has come, and so I enjoy the fact that when I hear them I know that warm weather is coming, because as we've discussed before, that I'm not very good with winter. I don't like cold weather. I prefer being sort of warm and having sunshine. So woodland kingfisher for me is one of my favorites. The fish eagle, obviously, it's such an iconic sound of Africa, and generally when you hear a fish eagle call, you are hearing, or you're in a wilderness area and you're kind of out in nature, and so it's synonymous with that, and I always like that. Just trying to think what other calls I really enjoy. I like the grey-headed bushshrike. It's this kind of eerie, creepy call. Pearl-spotted owlets, which are always nice because, again, they are bushveld birds, and you kind of associate them with being out in nature. Fiery-necked nightjar. So you can see I have a problem deciding on a singular bird that I like its call. I pretty much enjoy all of them. There's so many nice calls that we have out here that, you know, there's too many really to choose from, in my opinion. You can see his eyes are actually closing tighter every now and then. I wonder if he's not dreaming about something, but he really has wrapped himself up. You can see his tail's even curled around his feet, and his head tucked in. Really has gotten himself into the tightest ball possible. Now that he's getting quite bulky, he can't really get into these small balls like he used to when he was a younger individual. Good. Well, I don't know if we're going to stay with Hosana that much longer. I want to just have a little look around and see what's going on. I think David also needs a loo break, so we're going to have to move away from him quickly. A pleasure, David. And while we do that, let's send you across to Sydney, who's having a nice stroll down the road.
The marula tree. This tree is one of those trees which are very much popular here in South Africa. The marula tree is popular of having its beer, the amarula beer. This tree, where I come from, we are using it in order to make a lot of things. And we don't only eat the fruits, we even eat the seed kernels. So we take off the seed kernels, eat them, dry them, and we can also use them as a cooked fat. So this plant, if you come and take the bark, piece of the bark, and if it's a male plant, you take a small piece of the bark, infuse it. To those who are hoping to have, if it's a male, if you're hoping to have a boy, you must come every morning, and then we'll come and take the piece. We must cook it. You must drink in preparation of the of the boy. And if you want to have a girl, we must then go and look for a female, and we'll go and take the bark. We infuse the bark every time you drink. The hope is that this tree can be able to determine the sex of the little ones. And that quite work. I know I have seen it because it's a practice that I have seen. It has been happening. Maybe I was also born like that. Who knows? Just that I didn't ask my parents about the application of the marula tree before I was born. But I saw it. It has been happening, and a lot of people are taking it. Until today, some of the people, they are using this tree in order to do that kind of a purpose. It doesn't only help with the determination of the sex. This bark, you can also take it and infuse it in order to fight problems that are related with pregnancy. In order to support pregnancy, this bark is used. But also, you can treat some fertility-related problems from the bark as well. So I am going to see if I can find something interesting next. Oh, thank you very much for the comments. Yes, indeed, it is quite a very interesting tree. Lisa, I am not too sure if the marula tree can be used for the skin cares, but I know it does have quite a lot of different purposes. So that one, I'm not sure, but if you can check, some of the African tribes, apart from Venda, are using it for different things as well. Maybe things such as skin care is part of. So let's see if we can find any other interesting thing here in the field. It has been a very interesting morning. We saw a lot actually this morning, eh? Now I am going to James, who is driving around, and see if James has got something on the other side. I will be looking around here to see if I'm going to find something interesting for you.
I'm also looking for something interesting. I haven't managed to find anything interesting just yet. We have done a very, fine search for tracks of Sandy. My eyes did not pick them up, so that is not to say that she has not crossed past this area, but my eyes have not picked them up. And as Kirsten has so nicely pointed out for all of us, I am obviously I am not blessed of eyes that work properly. I've demonstrated that with my misidentification of that bird. So we've got one more little road to check. This is the Firebreak Road between the southern boundary and Leadwood Road, if you were wondering where we are on the reserve. She apparently came across from that a ways over there and came this way. So we'll just look along here. I thought maybe I'd heard the distress call of a duiker a little bit earlier, but it may have been Jigger's engine whining. I'm not really sure. It's difficult to tell. And amongst the barrage of insults coming out of the final control room, it's difficult to discern sounds. Carl, most people can. I mean, today I probably couldn't. You can certainly tell the difference between a lion and a leopard track. I'm assuming you mean in general, not just me personally. Even I can do that, and it's very simple because the size is different. The size is vastly different. Perhaps you're just asking me specifically. Yes, even I can tell the difference between a lion and a leopard track. Thank you, Carl, for fueling this wonderful morning I'm having. It's so good for my confidence, really, you know. It's times like this, you know, said that you really got to pull yourself together. Except that, you know, you take the hit and then come back strong, you know. This is where the rubber meets the road, as it were. Yes, Christy, as with all of our animals that we like, they've gone to Londolozi. So the cheetah and cubs are at Londolozi right now. Tumba is at Londolozi right now. Hosanna mercifully has just returned from Londolozi. The Nkuhuma Pride is at Londolozi right now. The Anderson Male is at Londolozi right now. I'm not sure. Thankfully, Tandy seems to be here still, which is great. The Birmingham Boys at Londolozi right now. Definitely seems to be the place to be. There are probably wild dogs there now. Obviously, these things do go in cycles. So, you know, everything will just as easily return here in the next little while. It does seem to be that a lot of animals come through here, spend a bit of time here, and then end up going down there. And obviously, they move on from there as well. But the progression seems to be down towards that area. So it feels like everything is forsaking us and going there, except this fine Nyala, which we will look at. There we go. Can you see him there, Sebastian? Is that all right? No, Sharon, we try desperately not to keep wild animals as pets in South Africa. There are the odd few that think it's appropriate. I'm not one of those that thinks it is appropriate. I think a wild animal needs to be kept wild. Interestingly, though, you probably could domesticate a bushbuck or a nyala like this. They would probably very comfortably live in a garden and allow you to be around them. They may even allow you to touch them eventually. Well, you can see what this nyala thinks about domestication. There we go. He's giving you precisely what he thinks about it. But impala, duiker, steenbok, those sorts of things tend to be much less domesticatable. Although you often hear of, you know, farmers who find an abandoned baby, I don't mean a human baby, an abandoned lamb or something, and then they take it into their homes and, you know, they fairly successfully live with the animal. But they're wild, they're not domestic. So, you know, the process of domestication took many hundreds of years, I think, certainly with dogs and wolves and with the African wildcat that eventually was the progenitor of Burmese, Persians, those foul things with no hair on them. That process wouldn't have been a quick one. In fact, it would have been a very long one. And so to truly domesticate something like an antelope would take, you know, many generations. So it would be more than just adopting an abandoned one and then hoping that it would be a useful sort of candidate for domestication. I don't know where this leopard has gone. I have not seen any tracks of her at all. Here's the hyena den, supposedly, that she came towards. But of course my confidence is now at an all-time low, so insulted have I been today. Maybe I'm just mistaking the tracks for something else. Maybe a small hyena track, yes. I remain convinced that the dog tracks that we were supposedly seeing today were not dog tracks at all, but hyena tracks. Right, there's some impala over there. They don't look particularly enthralled with us. Carol, I got to tell you, finding an active hyena den would be one of the most exciting things for me. It's been so long since we've had an active hyena den. They are such hugely entertaining places to go, but unfortunately we just haven't had any for a long time. I just want to show you something. Sydney was describing this yesterday, and I'm not sure it's clear unless you actually see it. What we've got here is a game path, but you can see what made this game path. And Sydney was describing how sometimes the grass will grow in the middle of a path made by hippopotamus because their legs are so far apart, whereas a rhino path will just be a path. This is unquestionably made by a hippopotamus over many, many nights. And you can see it's got what we call in South Africa a middle manaki, which means a middle small man, which is very strange. But that's what it is. That's that little sort of raised bit with the grass in the middle. See that? That's quite interesting. Don't you think, Sebastian? Much more interesting than finding Tundi again. Not really. But either she's gone to sleep somewhere in here, or I've missed the tracks. I suspect the latter. Indigo Girl, you say I'm your hero. That is very nice of you to say. Thank you. Thank you. That makes me feel much better after my morning so far. Thank you. Someone likes me. It's a relief. Tristan, of course, is so brimming with confidence that he's decided he doesn't even need to be with his leopard. He'll just find something else for you.
No, not that at all, James. It was David needed a loo, and so we left Hosanna, and then I thought, well, I might as well go and check out what's happening around us as well, and leave Hosanna to have a bit of a sleep. It's not anything to do with conference. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to find very much at all, but we're going to try nonetheless. I want to just quickly have a look at these tracks for these lions that apparently were seen. So I want to just have a little quick check and see where they went to and what they did. I have a feeling it might be the Avoca boys that have gone east, and eventually they've gone towards Torchwood and then out from there. I'm actually just listening now to Aubrey's updates on the tracks as well. Apparently they're on the firebreak area, so we're on the right track to join up with those tracks and see where they head to. Just double check what's going on. I'm not sure they're probably in Juma anymore. I have a feeling that they have already crossed out, but worth going and having a little check up and just see exactly what's happening. But it's turned into a beautiful day. Hopefully we're going to not see clouds coming in, because it seems like every morning we have nice clear skies, and then sun rises. It seems as though it's going to be a nice day, and then clouds just start closing in from about 10, 11 o'clock. So hopefully it's going to be a nice warm day today and dry everything. That's all the clothes and things that have been damp. I believe the ladies were telling me that they've had a tough time trying to sort of figure out how to dry all of our clothes and our laundry. So hopefully that will be all sorted. Now, what interests me is that there are obviously buffalo tracks in this area, and we know Sydney saw some buffalo, and so I wonder if these lions weren't actually trailing these buffalo at some point. We know buffalo are like a red rag to a bull when it comes to lions in this area. Given that there's so few of them, you find that the lions latch onto them pretty quickly. So I wonder if that's why there are lion tracks in this section, is that they were actually following the buffalo herd into this area. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think it's somewhere here that they had the buffalo. There's certainly tracks for buffalo all over the place here, so I would imagine that they were in this section when Sydney found them. But I was actually talking about buffalo and lions. I got another update yesterday when I was talking to the guys from Lundo's about the Anderson sort of Tumba situation. They were telling me also that the Nkuhuma Pride was in Londolozi yesterday on a buffalo kill, but the twist in the whole situation was that they actually sat and fed on the buffalo kill with the Mangeni sub-adults. So the Mangeni sub-adults are, there's 9 of them, and they were all together, and they, I think, were the ones that actually killed the buffalo, and then the Nkuhumas came and everybody ate together. There was lots of growling and carrying on, but there was no aggression whatsoever, no fight, no any sign of sort of any of them going after one another. So pretty interesting when you think about it, to, you know, that these guys all fed together. So I wonder how that played out. There was no sign of the little cubs apparently. There was just the big individuals. So Londolozi, yes, free coffee and donuts for all animals that go to that side. They're allowed to have one free coffee and a donut, and then they have to buy after that. No, the animals simply go there because of the Sand River. That's the one and only reason that they are there, is the Sand River, and also there is a lot of big open clearings there, which allows for quite a high concentration of prey animals. But essentially it's the river that attracts many animals, especially in the winter months, and that's why it makes it a prime habitat for everything to go. The Inkahumas are there not because of any other reason than that sorry, I was just having a little look at the lion tracks that are here, so you can see them in the sand in front of me. So coming this direction there are lion tracks. Looks like for a male lion that's walked there, so I just want to double check these and have a little look around. But the Inkahuma pride is there purely because the Birminghams are there, and the Birminghams are there because, well, there's no competition at the moment, and so they've expanded their territory like any animal will do as far as they can to get as many resources as possible. They're getting as many females, as much food, as much water as they can possibly get, and because there's no resistance, they're just going further and further and further, and they're sort of finding all these prides that they haven't mated with, and so they are hardwired to mate with those females to try and get a situation where they can then produce offspring. And so they're busy mating down there, and that's what's keeping them that side. And this side, well, they've mated, they've already produced cubs in here in this area, and so the prides that have got cubs have all shifted southwards. We know the Styx pride has gone to Malamala, the Inkahuma pride has gone to the western side, to Simambili, Elephant Plains, and into Londolozi. And so those are the main sort of prides that they were dominant over in this particular section. We also had a situation where they did mate with the Torchwoods, but I see the Avoca boys are mating with them now, so I'm pretty sure they've kind of dispatched those cubs and are going to mate there. And that's maybe why we're starting to see the Torchwoods and the Telematis pushing into this area, is because the Inkahuma pride is now vacated and moved south towards the Birminghams. But you know, it's not only Londolozi, Malamala gets a lot of our animals as well, and it's all because of that Sand River. That Sand River is vitally important for attracting both predators and prey, and obviously the free coffee and donut does help as well. I think we'd have most of our crew there if there was free coffee and donuts for crew. David, do you like a coffee and a donut? So David likes a coffee and a donut, and so he said he would go as well. Kirsty, would you go? I believe Kirsty would probably go. I think Kirsty would go. She likes a coffee as well. Yes, there we go. So Kirsty would go. I wonder if there's anybody that wouldn't go for a coffee and a donut. I wouldn't go for the coffee. I'd go for the donut, but not the coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I'm sure I could arrange... No, James would not have the donuts, although James says that he wouldn't have the donuts. But we all know that James sneakily sometimes sneaks into the kitchen. Exactly, Kirsty. He would eat it around the corner where no one is looking. We know James too well. We catch him every now and then squirreling in the kitchen, grabbing a little bread and sort of having that around the corner. So I definitely think James would have a donut. He just wouldn't tell us about it. Anyway, while we have a look at these tracks and just double check what's happening, let's send you back across to Sydney, who I think is involved in some tree activity of some sort.
I've got lovely markings here. You can see they are more red. The name of this tree is called a weeping whitelow. This tree is very popular when it comes to the attraction of the wood borers. Some of the wood borers, they prefer to come here. But now, who took off the bark from this tree? Obviously, considering the size and where it's taking place, I can see impala. If not the wildebeest, impala is the one who stretched these bushes and get this color. I want to share with you something very much interesting about this tree. So, considering the color of this branch, where the skin is taken out is showing red. This is one of the trees we are using the outer layer of the bark as well as the outer layer of the bark from the roots. We take this and infuse them and give it to the ladies shortly after the deliverance of the pregnancy. This is what we do. We come and take this bark and then we mix it with water and we take off the umbilical cord. Soon as the umbilical cord falls from a newborn, we mix it with this plant and water, and then we give it to the mother to drink. This helps to facilitate the mother to heal very quickly after birth. So this is called a weeping whittle. And those kind of practice, they are still happening also today. So let's see what we are going to find. Yeah, there is not much activities taking place in terms of the animals here where I am. As you all know, a guided walk is a completely different experience from a game drive. We normally concentrate on a lot of things that we don't see from the vehicles. So I'm trying by all means to find the tiny little interesting things for you. So now we can link to James, and he's looking for some tracks on the other side.
Yes, he's doing his best. He did find one track of Tundi. Disappeared, naturally. So we'll just have one last sort of loop around here and see if we don't get lucky before the end of our drive. Warming up quite nicely. I think we'll probably just have the tail of the cold front with us now. And with any luck, it will dissipate completely now. We've had a very chilly winter. Strange compared with last year. Lioness, no news on Amber Eyes' cubs, I'm afraid. I suspect they're at Londolozi, probably enjoying themselves very much. Of course, the reason that they are south, the Nkuhuma Pride, is because of the evoker males. They obviously do not wish to come into contact with the evokers, which tells me, I thought for a brief second that maybe, just maybe, Amber Eyes' cubs were the progeny of the evokers, but I think that's definitely not the case. They're almost certainly the progeny of the Birminghams, and that's why the Nkuhuma Pride is spending time to the south, out of their traditional territory, because they do not wish to come across the evokers with the young cubs. And of course, not all of the sub-adults are out of danger. I mean, they're probably pretty much out of danger. 2 years, you'd be pretty sure they were out of danger. The oldest ones are now 2 years old. There are a couple of others who aren't quite there yet. So, you know, if you do get a bit of picture breakup, sorry about that, it'll come back now. Let's go up here. We're okay. I think Jigger's all right in this area, actually. So, yeah, you know, I don't think we're going to find them again in a hurry. And that's simply because, well, it's safer for them to be where they are in the territory of the Birmingham boys. If you're wondering who on earth the Birmingham boys are, they are, of course, the 4 male lions who took over this area in the winter of 2015. I love saying that. And they have since moved down to fill the void left by the aged and now dead Majingalan coalition, who held sway along the Sand River for about 5 years, 5 or 6 years, I think. It was a very long time. And, well, the Birmingham boys have just filled that void and kind of ignored their territory up here. And that has opened up the spot for the evoker males who've wandered in here, hardly had to fight, started roaring. No one's come to beat them up, so they've kept doing a bit more roaring. And now they find themselves with a territory, and they unfortunately don't find themselves with any lionesses within their territory to mate with. And they're probably wandering about here thinking, but this is not right, this is not what be. There should be ladies here for us. Well, the ladies have all forsaken them. Just look up there. That kingfisher up there. It is, of course, the brown hooded kingfisher. Gorgeous. With some red-billed oxpeckers next to it. Now, before we end this show, I must just once again apologise for my utterly appalling identification of the pearl-spotted owl. I'm never going to be forgiven for it, either by myself or anyone in the final control room. I'll never be able to forget it, unfortunately. Look at those two birds making friends with each other. That's beautiful. All right, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you this afternoon at 3 o'clock. I won't be there. I will be in town. I have to go and fetch fuel in town. That's my lot today. Well, I suppose it's adequate punishment. Until then, stay safe and happy wherever you happen to be in the world. We will see you later. Bye-bye.